A millionaire returns early from a trip and finds his son on the street begging for food. The boy is weak, dirty, and can barely stand. Inside the house, the scene is even more desperate. Chaos, neglect, and a drunk caregiver. But what he discovers next makes all of this seem like just the beginning. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The fluorescent lights of Boston Memorial Hospital's conference center buzzed softly overhead as Dr. Ethan Reynolds collected his papers. The anesthesiology symposium had run late, and his flight back to Seattle wasn't until 3 a.m. A respected anesthesiologist at Seattle Grace, Ethan had built his career on precision and reliability. But tonight, exhaustion settled into his bones like an unwelcome guest. 6 months had passed since Sarah's illness took her away. 6 months of Ethan sleepwalking through life, burying himself in work, while their 6-year-old son Noah navigated his own grief. The hospital had become Ethan's sanctuary. His operating room a place where emotional detachment was not just acceptable but required. Great presentation. Reynolds, Dr. Hansen clapped him on the shoulder. Your research on pediatric sedation protocols is groundbreaking. Thanks. Ethan managed a perfunctory smile. Just building on Sarah's work. Sarah. Even saying her name felt like pressing on a bruise. She'd been Seattle Grace's rising star in pediatric anesthesiology before her illness. Now Ethan carried her research forward, a tribute he never mentioned to colleagues. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. Normally he'd let it go to voicemail, but something, intuition perhaps, made him answer. Dr. Reynolds? Yes, speaking. This is Linda Wilson, your neighbor. The woman's voice trembled slightly. I'm sorry to bother you so late, but there's something you need to know about Noah. Ethan's heart rate accelerated. Is he okay? What happened? He collapsed at my doorstep about an hour ago. He was asking for food, Dr. Reynolds. The poor thing looked terrible. The conference room tilted sideways. What do you mean collapsed? Is he conscious? Have you called an ambulance? He's awake now. I gave him some apple juice and a sandwich. He perked up, but Ethan, he's so thin. When I asked about Ms. Peterson, he got scared and wouldn't answer. Melissa Peterson, the nanny Ethan had hired after extensive interviews and background checks. A former pediatric nurse with impeccable references who had seemed like a godsend. Where is Noah now? He's here with me. I tried calling Ms. Peterson several times, but she's not answering. Put him on the phone, please. A shuffling sound, then a small voice that nearly broke Ethan. Daddy? Hey, buddy. Ethan struggled to keep his voice steady. Are you okay? I'm sorry, Daddy. The words came out in a whisper. Sorry? For what, Noah? For bothering Mrs. Wilson. Missy said I shouldn't bother the neighbors. Missy. The nickname Noah had given Melissa against Ethan's wishes. He'd thought it was harmless at the time. You didn't do anything wrong, Noah. I'm coming home, okay? I'm going to get there as fast as I can. Promise? The word hung in the air, heavy with implications Ethan couldn't yet grasp. I promise, buddy. Can you put Mrs. Wilson back on? Once Linda was back on the line, Ethan asked, Could you keep him with you tonight? I'm in Boston, but I'll get the first flight out. Of course. Should we call the police to check on Ms. Peterson? Ethan hesitated. Let me try calling her first. If I can't reach her, then yes. After ending the call, Ethan immediately dialed Melissa's number. She answered on the 4th ring. Hello? Her voice sounded slurred, distant. Melissa, it's Dr. Reynolds. Where's Noah? A pause. Noah? He's sleeping. It's past midnight, Dr. Reynolds. The lie sent ice through Ethan's veins. My neighbor just called. Noah's at her house. He collapsed asking for food. What the hell is going on? Another pause, longer this time. That's impossible. I just checked on him. Stop lying to me. Ethan rarely raised his voice, but fury and fear propelled the words out. What have you done to my son? Nothing. He must have snuck out. You know how he gets, making up stories for attention. Ever since your wife... Don't... Ethan's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Don't you dare bring Sarah into this. Look, I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding, Melissa continued, her words running together. Kids exaggerate. You know that better than anyone, Doctor. In the background, Ethan could hear music, laughter, the clink of glasses. She wasn't even at home. You're fired. Pack your things and be gone before I get home. You can't... Ethan ended the call, his hands shaking with rage and fear. Seconds later, he was running toward the airport shuttle, his presentation materials abandoned on the conference table. Nothing mattered now except getting home. At the airport, the ticketing agent shook her head sympathetically. I'm sorry, Dr. Reynolds, but the next direct flight to Seattle isn't until 6 a.m. I need to get home now. My son is... He couldn't finish the sentence. Please check connections, anything. The woman's fingers flew over her keyboard. There's a flight to Chicago leaving in 40 minutes, with a connection to Seattle. You'd arrive around 8 a.m. Pacific time. Book it. While waiting at the gate, Ethan called Dr. James Chen, his closest friend and Noah's pediatrician. James, I need a favor. He quickly explained the situation. Jesus, Ethan, do you want me to go check on him? If you could. He's at my neighbor's, Linda Wilson, 3 doors down. I'm worried about his condition. I'll head over now and call you after I've examined him. Thank you. The words felt inadequate. Boarding began. And Ethan found himself sandwiched in a middle seat, his long frame cramped and uncomfortable. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the miles stretching between him and Noah. As the plane climbed into the night sky, Ethan stared out at the darkness, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. What had happened in his beautiful craftsman home while he was away? How had he missed the signs? Noah had seemed quieter during their video calls, yes, but Ethan had attributed that to grief, to adjustment. Sarah would never have let this happen. The thought ambushed him, sharp as a scalpel. Sarah, with her intuition, her way of reading people. She'd interviewed dozens of nannies before Noah was born, rejecting candidates for reasons that seemed trivial to Ethan, but that she insisted were red flags. His phone buzzed with a text from James. With Noah now. Dehydrated, malnourished. Recommending ER for IV fluids and tests. We'll meet you at Seattle Children's, don't worry, we've got him. Don't worry. As if worry wasn't now permanently etched into his DNA. As if worry wasn't the only thing keeping him from complete collapse. Somewhere over the Midwest, Ethan finally surrendered to exhaustion, his dreams filled with Noah's voice repeating those 2 devastating words. I'm sorry. The journey home felt endless. Every minute on the plane was torture for Ethan, his mind constructing increasingly terrifying scenarios. The layover in Chicago stretched interminably, with Ethan pacing the terminal like a caged animal. When he finally landed in Seattle, he raced through the airport, ignoring the curious glances from other travelers. James had texted updates throughout the night. Noah was at Seattle Children's Hospital, receiving fluids and undergoing tests. Child Protective Services had been notified. Standard protocol in suspected neglect cases. The words had hit Ethan like physical blows. Neglect, his son. Those concepts should never exist in the same universe. The taxi ride to the hospital was a blur of rain-slicked streets and mounting anxiety. When Ethan finally burst through the pediatric ward doors, James was waiting. Where is he? Ethan demanded, his voice raw with emotion. Room 307, he's stable, Ethan. They've got him on IV fluids and nutrition. The blood work shows significant vitamin deficiencies and... James hesitated. And what? Traces of benzodiazepines in his system. Ethan felt as though he'd been punched. Benzos? Are you saying someone was drugging my son? James nodded grimly. The levels suggest regular administration, over an extended period. Given Noah's age and size, even small doses would have significant effects. Ethan's medical training kicked in, his mind cataloging the implications: sedation, impaired coordination, amnesia, vulnerability to suggestion. His heart, however, was screaming, I need to see him now. Noah's room was dimly lit, the blinds drawn against the morning light. In the hospital bed, his son looked impossibly small, his thin arms punctured by IV lines. Noah's eyes fluttered open as Ethan approached, recognition dawning slowly. Daddy, you came back. The simple statement delivered with such surprise shattered what remained of Ethan's composure. He carefully gathered Noah into his arms, mindful of the IV lines. Of course I came back. I'll always come back for you. Noah's body was tense at first, then gradually relaxed into the embrace. Ethan noticed the prominence of his son's shoulder blades, the way his hospital gown hung loosely around his frame. I was good. Daddy, I tried to be good. You are good. Noah, you've always been good. Ethan pulled back slightly to look into his son's eyes, Sarah's eyes blue as a summer sky. Can you tell me what happened with Ms. Peterson? Noah's gaze darted to the door, as if checking whether they were truly alone. The gesture sent alarm bells ringing through Ethan's mind. She's not here, buddy. She can't hurt you anymore. She said I was bad. Noah's voice dropped to a whisper. She said I was making too much noise and bothering her friends. She made me stay in the laundry room when they came over. The laundry room? Ethan struggled to keep his voice level. Noah nodded. There was a mattress. It was wet sometimes. When I had accidents, Ethan swallowed hard. Noah had been fully potty trained before Sarah's illness. Regression was common in traumatized children, a fact Ethan knew professionally but was unprepared to face as a father. Did she punish you for the accidents? Noah looked down at his hands, small fingers picking at the hospital blanket. She said big boys don't wet the bed. She said I was being a baby. Each word was a knife twisting in Ethan's gut. Did she give you medicine, Noah? The sleepy drops. Noah's face clouded. Like Mommy's medicine. Missy said they would help me be a good boy. Sarah's medicine. The connection hit Ethan like lightning. Sarah had been prescribed lorazepam during her illness for anxiety. The bottle should have been disposed of after her passing. Instead, it appeared Melissa had found it and used it on Noah. A soft knock interrupted them. A woman in a tailored suit stood in the doorway, her expression professional but compassionate. Dr. Reynolds, I'm Karen Mitchell from Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about Noah's situation. Ethan squeezed Noah's hand. I'll be right outside, buddy. The nurses will check on you, okay? In the hallway, Ms. Mitchell got straight to the point. Dr. Reynolds, I understand you've been traveling frequently since your wife's passing. The question held no judgment, yet Ethan felt defensive. I've had conferences, yes, but I arranged for qualified childcare. Melissa Peterson came with excellent references, pediatric nursing experience, CPR certification, glowing testimonials from other medical professionals. We're investigating those references now, Mitchell replied. Preliminary findings suggest they may have been falsified. The floor seemed to shift beneath Ethan's feet. Falsified? That's impossible. I checked them myself. Did you speak directly with her previous employers? I emailed with them. Even as he said it, Ethan recognized the inadequacy of his vetting process. He'd been drowning in grief, desperate for help, willing to believe that Melissa's polished resume and confident manner meant Noah would be safe. Dr. Reynolds, I want to be clear. We're not placing blame on you. What matters now is Noah's recovery and ensuring his safety moving forward. Mitchell consulted her tablet. The hospital will keep him for observation while his physical condition improves. Meanwhile, I'd like your permission to have one of our child psychologists evaluate him. Ethan nodded numbly. Of course. Anything that helps. We'll also need to document his living conditions. Would you be willing to accompany one of our investigators to your home? The thought of returning to his house, where Noah had suffered while Ethan was oblivious, filled him with dread. But he nodded again. Yes, I need to see exactly what happened there. One more question, Dr. Reynolds. Where is Miss Peterson now? I have no idea. I fired her over the phone last night. Mitchell's expression grew concerned. Then we should contact the police immediately. If she's fled, she may be destroying evidence. The word evidence jolted Ethan back to reality. This wasn't just a terrible mistake or negligence. This was deliberate harm inflicted on his child. The realization ignited something primal inside him, a fierce protective rage he'd never experienced before. I want her found, he said, his voice low and steady. Whatever it takes. As they walked toward the elevator, Ethan glanced back at Noah's room where a nurse was gently adjusting his pillows. His son's vulnerability struck him anew. How had he failed to protect the one person who mattered most? The answer was simple and devastating. He'd been running. From grief, from responsibility, from the echoing emptiness of his home without Sarah. He'd thrown himself into work, telling himself it was for Noah's future, when really it was to escape Noah's present, a present that painfully reflected his mother's absence. In the hospital parking lot, Mitchell paused before getting into her car. Dr. Reynolds, I've seen many cases like this. The path to recovery isn't quick or easy. But children are remarkably resilient. With proper support and love, Noah can heal from this. Ethan looked toward the hospital building, thinking of his son lying small and afraid in a strange bed. He shouldn't have to recover from anything. I should have protected him. Second-guessing won't help Noah now, Mitchell said gently. What he needs is his father, present, engaged, and focused on moving forward. The words echoed in Ethan's mind as they drove toward his home in Queen Anne Hill, a beautiful neighborhood with views of Puget Sound that Sarah had fallen in love with. They'd bought the Craftsman house just before Noah was born, planning a future filled with family dinners, holiday celebrations, and watching their son grow up in a home filled with love. Now, as they approached the familiar blue house with its wraparound porch, Ethan could only wonder what horrors awaited inside. The house Ethan had once considered a sanctuary now loomed before him like a crime scene. Yellow police tape cordoned off the front yard, and a patrol car sat in the driveway. 2 officers stood on the porch, conferring with a man in plain clothes who Ethan assumed was a detective. Dr. Reynolds. The plainclothes officer approached as Ethan and Mitchell exited their car. Detective Mark Sanchez, Seattle PD. We've secured the premises. Miss Peterson appears to be gone, but we'd like you to walk through and identify if anything is missing or disturbed. Ethan nodded, steeling himself for what lay inside. Thank you, Detective. The front door opened to reveal chaos. The normally immaculate living room was littered with empty wine bottles, overflowing ashtrays, and takeout containers. The air was thick with the stale smell of cigarettes and spilled alcohol. Noah was living in this? Ethan's voice cracked as he surveyed the scene. It gets worse, Sanchez said grimly, leading them through the house. The kitchen sink was piled high with unwashed dishes, some growing mold. The refrigerator contained only condiments, a half-empty bottle of vodka, and a single yogurt cup long past its expiration date. Noah's dinosaur lunchbox sat abandoned on the counter, cobwebs forming in its corners. Where was he sleeping? Mitchell asked, taking photos with her tablet. Let's check his room, Ethan suggested, heading upstairs. Noah's bedroom appeared untouched, as if preserved in a museum. The rocket ship bedspread was perfectly smoothed, stuffed animals arranged in neat rows. No clothes in the hamper, no toys out of place. It was the room of a child who hadn't been allowed to live in it. This doesn't make sense, Ethan murmured. If she wasn't letting him sleep here, then where? The answer came from Officer Rodriguez, who called up from the first floor. You need to see this. In the laundry room off the kitchen, a dirty mattress lay on the floor, surrounded by Noah's pajamas and a few tattered books. A child-sized blanket, once Noah's favorite emblazoned with superheroes, was bunched in the corner, stained and musty. Beside the mattress sat a sippy cup, the kind Noah hadn't used since he was 3. Ethan stood frozen, unable to process the scene before him. His son, his bright, curious, loving son, had been forced to live like an unwanted animal in the house Ethan had worked so hard to provide. Dr. Reynolds? Mitchell's voice seemed to come from far away. Is this what Noah described to you? Yes, the word emerged as barely a whisper. He said she made him sleep here when he had accidents. But this looks permanent. Rodriguez pointed to a baby monitor on a shelf. She was watching him, probably to make sure he didn't leave or make noise. The implications struck Ethan like physical blows. Noah confined to this tiny room, monitored like a prisoner, while Melissa lived it up in the rest of the house. How many nights had his son lain awake, hungry and afraid, while Ethan assumed he was being cared for? There's more, Sanchez said, his expression grave. You should see the master bedroom. Ethan followed the detective upstairs, a sense of dread growing with each step. The door to his bedroom, the room he had once shared with Sarah, was ajar, revealing a scene that made his stomach turn. Melissa had clearly been sleeping in his bed. Her clothes were strewn across the floor, makeup littered Sarah's vanity, and empty bottles cluttered the nightstands. But what truly horrified Ethan was the state of Sarah's possessions. Her jewelry box had been ransacked, drawers emptied, closet pillaged. The framed photos of Sarah that Ethan kept on his dresser were face down, some with cracked glass. The lock on your home office appears to have been forced, Sanchez noted, gesturing down the hall. And there's evidence the safe in your closet was accessed. Ethan moved mechanically toward his office, a room he rarely entered these days. The door showed splintering around the lock, and inside chaos reigned. Papers were scattered, drawers left open. The glass cabinet where he stored valuable medical reference books stood empty. His laptop was missing, along with the external hard drives containing his research data. She wasn't just neglecting Noah, Ethan realized aloud. She was systematically robbing us. It appears that way, Sanchez confirmed. We'll need a full inventory of missing items. The more complete, the better our chances of tracking her down. As Ethan surveyed the wreckage of his home, the full scope of Melissa's betrayal came into focus. This wasn't mere negligence or even opportunistic theft. This was calculated, sustained exploitation of a grieving family. Check the medicine cabinet in the master bathroom, Ethan suddenly remembered. My wife had prescription lorazepam during her illness. Noah mentioned sleepy drops like his mother's medicine. Rodriguez disappeared into the bathroom, returning moments later. Empty bottle here, prescribed to Sarah Reynolds. Label says lorazepam, 1 mg. That's what she was using on Noah, Ethan confirmed, nausea rising in his throat. A 6-year-old given adult doses of benzodiazepines. The implications were horrifying. Lorazepam could cause respiratory depression, especially in children. Noah could have stopped breathing in his sleep. The thought nearly brought Ethan to his knees. Dr. Reynolds, Mitchell spoke gently but firmly. I know this is overwhelming, but we need to focus on next steps. Noah can't return here until the house is cleaned and secured. Do you have somewhere else you can stay? Ethan nodded numbly. My in-laws have a condo in Belltown. They use it when they visit from Portland. I have keys. Good. I'd like to arrange for a trauma-informed cleaning service to handle this space. And while Noah is still in the hospital, I strongly suggest you consult with a child psychologist about how to prepare for his homecoming. The practical advice anchored Ethan, giving him something concrete to focus on. Yes, of course. Whatever Noah needs. We'll need your statement at the station, Sanchez added, and a detailed list of everything missing. The sooner we get an APB out on Ms. Peterson, the better our chances of finding her. As they continued cataloguing the damage, Ethan found himself in Noah's bathroom. Unlike the rest of the house, it was relatively clean until he opened the medicine cabinet. There, lined up neatly, were several children's medicine bottles. Cough syrup, pain relievers, allergy medication. Ethan checked the dosing cups beside them. "Detective!" he called, his voice tight with anger. "I need these tested. I think she may have been systematically overdosing Noah with over-the-counter medications as well." Sanchez bagged the bottles carefully. "We'll rush these to the lab. If there's residue from anything beyond what's on the labels, we'll find it." By the time they completed the walkthrough, Ethan felt physically ill. Every room held new evidence of Melissa's cruelty and deception. In the garage, they discovered a cache of empty high-end liquor bottles, brands Ethan had been saving for special occasions, now consumed and discarded. In Sarah's home office, her laptop was missing, along with her professional camera equipment. Even Noah's piggy bank had been emptied, the ceramic container broken and discarded in the trash. Outside, Ethan gulped the fresh air, trying to clear his lungs of the stale, tainted atmosphere of his violated home. "I don't understand," he said to no one in particular. Her background check was clean. Her references were impeccable. "How could I have missed this?" Mitchell's reply was gentle but direct. "Predators like this are experts at manipulation, Dr. Reynolds. They target vulnerable families, particularly single parents who are overwhelmed. You were grieving, working long hours, trying to maintain normalcy for Noah. She exploited that. But I'm a doctor. I'm trained to observe, to notice details. How did I not see what was happening to my own son?" "When was the last time you were home for more than a day or two?" Sanchez asked without judgment. Ethan tried to remember. The conferences had blurred together. Dallas, Chicago, Boston. Between those, he'd pulled double shifts at the hospital, telling himself it was necessary, that the extra money would secure Noah's future. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "A month ago, maybe? And when you were home, how was Noah behaving?" Quiet, withdrawn. Ethan closed his eyes, remembering. "I thought he was still processing Sarah's passing. I thought giving him space was the right approach." The realization hit him with crushing force. He hadn't given Noah space. He'd abandoned him. In trying to escape his own pain, he'd left his son vulnerable to a monster. "Dr. Reynolds," Mitchell said, "what matters now is moving forward. Noah needs you present and focused on his recovery. The past can't be changed, but the future is still unwritten." Ethan nodded, drawing a deep breath. "You're right. I need to call Sarah's parents, arrange for the condo. Then I should get back to the hospital." As they prepared to leave, Officer Rodriguez emerged from the house with one last discovery: a small spiral notebook found wedged behind the laundry room dryer. He handed it to Ethan, who recognized Noah's careful printing on the cover. "My secret book. Should we bag this as evidence?" Rodriguez asked. Ethan shook his head. "No, this is personal. This is between my son and me." He tucked the notebook into his jacket pocket, its weight against his chest a reminder of all that had been lost and all that might still be saved. Robert and Catherine Lawson's downtown condo felt like neutral territory, a space untainted by Melissa's betrayal, yet still connected to Sarah through her parents' presence. The sleek, minimalist decor was the opposite of the warm, cluttered craftsman house, and Ethan found the contrast oddly comforting. Here he could think clearly, plan his next steps without the constant reminder of his failures. After calling the Lawsons to explain the situation, a conversation that left Catherine in tears and Robert uncharacteristically silent, Ethan had returned to the hospital. Noah was sleeping, the gentle rise and fall of his chest hypnotic in the dim room. Ethan had settled into the vinyl visitor's chair, Noah's secret notebook heavy in his hands. He'd hesitated before opening it. This was Noah's private space, his thoughts untouched by adult interpretation. But as Noah's father, and now his protector in a way he hadn't been before, Ethan needed to understand what his son had endured. The first pages contained simple drawings, stick figures of Noah, Ethan and Sarah, standing beside a house with a red door. "My family," the childish caption read. Then a few pages later, just two figures remained with a small angel hovering above. "Mommy is watching us now," Noah had written, the words wobbly but determined. Ethan had felt tears gathering as he turned the pages, watching Noah process grief through crayon and pencil. Then the tone shifted. The drawings became darker, the stick figures smaller. "Missy says I'm bad," read one caption. Another showed a small figure curled in what appeared to be the laundry room mattress. "My new bed for bad boys." The final entries were the most disturbing. Noah had documented in his 6-year-old way the special medicine that made him sleepy, the hunger pangs that kept him awake, the strange adults who came to the house and ignored him. The last page was a letter. "Dear Daddy, please come home. I will be good. I promise. Love, Noah." Ethan had closed the notebook then, unable to continue. The raw evidence of his son's suffering and his desperate plea for rescue had broken something fundamental inside him. He'd sat in the hospital room until dawn, keeping vigil over Noah's sleep, promising silently that he would never again fail to protect his child. Now, 3 days later, Ethan stood in the condo's minimalist kitchen, brewing coffee while Dr. Amelia Winters, the child psychologist recommended by CPS, sat at the dining table reviewing her notes. Noah was being discharged today, and Ethan had asked Dr. Winters to help him prepare. "Noah's physical recovery is progressing well," Dr. Winters began, accepting the mug Ethan offered. "The malnutrition will resolve with proper diet. The benzodiazepine withdrawal is the more immediate concern, though the hospital has been managing that with a careful tapering protocol." Ethan nodded. The withdrawal symptoms had been difficult to witness: irritability, tremors, heightened anxiety, sleep disturbances. But Noah was tough, resilient in ways that continually surprised Ethan. "What about the psychological impact?" Ethan asked, the question that had been haunting him. Dr. Winter's expression was compassionate but honest. "Noah has experienced significant trauma, both from losing his mother and from Ms. Peterson's abuse. He exhibits classic symptoms of post-traumatic stress, hypervigilance, difficulty trusting, regression in certain developmental areas." "Will he ever be normal again?" The word felt wrong as soon as Ethan said it. "Normal isn't our goal here, Dr. Reynolds. Our goal is healing, integration, and growth. Noah will never be the same child he was before these experiences, but with proper support, he can emerge stronger, more resilient." What does that support look like? Dr. Winters outlined a comprehensive approach: regular therapy sessions for Noah, parenting guidance for Ethan, gradual reintegration into school, and careful attention to rebuilding security and trust. Most importantly, she emphasized, Noah needs consistency now. Regular routines, clear boundaries, and your presence. Not just physical presence, but emotional availability. The gentle rebuke hit home. I understand. So I've taken a leave of absence from the hospital. Noah is my priority now. That's excellent. Children are remarkably adaptive. With time and proper support, Noah can heal from this. But I want to be clear. This won't be a linear process. There will be setbacks, difficult days. The key is persistence and patience. As Dr. Winters continued explaining what to expect, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Detective Sanchez. Need to speak with you. Can I stop by? 30 minutes later, after Dr. Winters had departed with promises to check in after Noah's homecoming, Sanchez arrived at the condo, a folder tucked under his arm. We've made progress on the Peterson case, he announced without preamble. Her real name is Melissa Tanner. She has a history of similar scams across 3 states. Ethan gestured for the detective to sit. Similar how? She targets grieving families, particularly those with young children and valuable assets. She creates false identities, manufactures references, and insinuates herself as a caregiver or house manager. Once she's gained trust and access, she systematically loots the household while neglecting or actively harming the children in her care. The clinical description made Ethan's stomach turn. How many families? We've confirmed 6 cases so far, spanning Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. There may be more we haven't connected yet. And the authorities never caught her? Sanchez's expression hardened. She's careful, uses different names, changes her appearance, moves across jurisdictions. By the time one family realizes what's happening, she's already established with another. What about her references? The people I spoke with, shell companies and burner phones. The agencies that vouched for her don't exist. The families she worked for were accomplices, possibly relatives or associates. The scope of the deception was staggering. Ethan had considered himself a careful, methodical person. The idea that he'd been so thoroughly manipulated was almost as painful as the consequences. There's more, Sanchez continued. We found her online presence. She was running what amounts to a scam operation using your address and possessions. What kind of scam? She presented herself as a holistic wellness consultant on various social media platforms. She used your home as a backdrop, posing as a successful entrepreneur. She even posted photos of your late wife's garden, claiming she'd manifested it through positive thinking. Each revelation felt like a fresh violation. Sarah's garden had been her sanctuary, the place where she'd found peace during her illness. The idea of Melissa exploiting even that sacred space made Ethan's hands shake with rage. We've also discovered she was selling miracle treatments for serious conditions, Sanchez continued. Useless herbal concoctions at inflated prices, targeting desperate families with sick children. My God, Ethan whispered. How many people did she hurt? We're still assessing the scope. But based on her bank records, which we obtained yesterday, she's made hundreds of thousands of dollars through these schemes. The amount was shocking. Has she been arrested? Sanchez's expression clouded. Not yet. She's vanished, cleaned out her accounts and disappeared. But we've frozen what assets we could identify and issued warrants in 3 states. It's only a matter of time. When you find her. When, not if, Sanchez corrected firmly. This is priority for us now, Dr. Reynolds. Child endangerment, fraud, identity theft, practicing medicine without a license. The list of charges keeps growing. Ethan nodded, trying to take comfort in the detective's confidence. Is there anything I should be doing? To help the investigation? Actually, yes. We need a complete inventory of what's missing from your home and... Sanchez hesitated. We've received requests from other affected families. They'd like to connect with you, share information, possibly coordinate legal responses. The idea of meeting others who had suffered at Melissa's hands was both daunting and oddly comforting. Ethan wasn't alone in his failure to see through her disguise. Of course, I'd be willing to speak with them. Good. I'll send their contact information. Sanchez rose to leave, then paused. One more thing, Dr. Reynolds. We found something unusual in Miss Tanner's online activities. She wasn't just selling fake treatments. She was also sharing the content. What kind of content? Videos of the children in her care, showing their distress, their suffering. Sanchez's professional demeanor cracked slightly. She was monetizing their pain, Dr. Reynolds, selling access to private groups where members enjoyed watching vulnerable children struggle. The revelation hit Ethan with physical force. He stumbled back against the kitchen counter, bile rising in his throat. Noah, did she? We don't know yet. We're still recovering data from servers, but you should be prepared for the possibility. The world seemed to tilt around Ethan. The idea that Noah's suffering might have been not just collateral damage, but the actual product Melissa was selling was almost unbearable. I'll kill her, Ethan whispered, the words escaping before he could stop them. Sanchez's expression was sympathetic but firm. No, you won't. You'll be here for your son. You'll help us build a case that puts her away for decades. You'll testify at her trial and watch justice be served legally. That's what Noah needs from you. The detective's words penetrated Ethan's haze of rage. He was right. Noah needed his father whole, present, and on the right side of the law. You're right, Ethan acknowledged. Noah comes first, always. After Sanchez left, Ethan stood at the condo's floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at Elliott Bay. In a few hours, he would bring Noah home, not to the house filled with painful memories, but to this neutral space where they could begin to heal together. His phone buzzed with a notification. The hospital. It was time to pick up his son. Noah clutched his new stuffed dinosaur tightly as they entered the Lawsons' condo. The plush green Triceratops, selected by Ethan from the hospital gift shop, hadn't left the boy's grip since it was presented to him. Dr. Winters had explained that transitional objects could provide comfort during periods of change and stress, and Noah seemed to be proving her right. This is where we're staying for a while, Ethan explained gently, setting down Noah's small suitcase of newly purchased clothes. Grandma and Grandpa's special apartment. What do you think? Noah surveyed the sleek, modern space with wide eyes. It's big and clean. The simple observation, with its implicit comparison to the squalor Melissa had forced him to endure, made Ethan's heart constrict. Yes, buddy. It's very clean, and you have your own room with a view of the water. He led Noah to the second bedroom, which he'd spent the morning transforming from an austere guest room into a child-friendly space. Gone were the stark white linens and minimalist decor, replaced with colorful bedding, a nightlight that projected stars onto the ceiling, and a small collection of new toys arranged invitingly on shelves. Noah approached the bed cautiously. Is this for me? All yours. You can jump on it if you want to test it out. Noah looked scandalized. Jumping on beds is for bad boys. Ethan crouched down to Noah's eye level. Who told you that, Noah? Missy. The name emerged as barely a whisper. She said only bad boys jump and make noise. Well, Missy was wrong about a lot of things. It's okay to be a kid, Noah. It's okay to play and laugh and sometimes be a little messy or noisy. Noah considered this, his small face solemn. Then, with deliberate care, he placed his dinosaur on the pillow and climbed onto the bed. He stood shakily, looking to Ethan for reassurance. Go ahead, Ethan encouraged. Give it a try. Noah bounced experimentally once, twice. A small smile tugged at his lips. Then he was jumping in earnest, his face breaking into the first genuine grin Ethan had seen in months. It's bouncy, Noah exclaimed, his voice bright with surprise and delight. The bounciest, Ethan agreed, his own smile threatening to crack his face. Perfect for dinosaur adventures. For several minutes, Noah continued jumping, his initial hesitance giving way to childhood exuberance. Ethan watched, memorizing every detail. The way Noah's hair flopped with each bounce, the sound of his giggles, the gradual loosening of his too thin shoulders. Eventually, Noah collapsed onto the mattress, breathless and smiling. Can I stay here forever, Daddy? We'll stay as long as we need to, Ethan promised. But someday we might find a new house, one that's just for us. Not the old house. No, not the old house. Ethan had already decided to sell the Queen Anne property. Too many shadows lingered there now, too much pain embedded in its walls. A fresh start. Would you like that? Noah nodded thoughtfully. Can I help pick it? Absolutely. You'll be my chief real estate consultant. This earned another smile, smaller but equally precious. What's for dinner? The simple question, so normal, so childlike, filled Ethan with unexpected joy. This was recovery beginning. Noah asking for food without fear, expecting to be nourished and cared for. "Whatever you want, buddy. We could order pizza, or I could make mac and cheese, or we could try that new burger place downstairs." Noah's eyes widened at the choices. Pizza with pepperoni, extra cheese, whatever toppings the chief real estate consultant desires. As they settled into their first evening in the condo, Noah carefully eating slice after slice of pizza, Ethan sipping beer and pretending not to notice how much pepperoni his son was picking off, Ethan felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. Not happiness exactly. It was too soon, the wounds too fresh, but possibility. The sense that healing, while distant, was not impossible. Later, after Noah was tucked into his new bed, Dinosaur clutched to his chest and stars glowing on the ceiling. Ethan sat at the dining table with his laptop open to a secure messaging platform. Detective Sanchez had connected him with other families victimized by Melissa Tanner, and they had created a private group to share information and support. The messages scrolled past, each one a variation on the same horrific theme. Jessica W. She came to us as Melanie Parker right after my husband's accident. Claimed to be a physical therapy assistant. By the time we realized she was drugging my daughter and stealing from us, she'd emptied our savings and disappeared. Michael D. For us, it was Margaret Phillips, supposedly a grief counselor recommended by our church. She moved in to help after my wife passed and systematically isolated me from friends and family while neglecting my twin boys. Taylor S. Michelle Petroff, in our case. Former nurse, supposedly. Perfect references. She convinced us our son needed special supplements that turned out to be sedatives. Meanwhile, she was selling our possessions on eBay and running a fake wellness clinic from our guest house. The stories continued, each more disturbing than the last. Ethan contributed his own account, feeling a grim solidarity with these strangers, united by shared trauma. As the conversation progressed, patterns emerged. Melissa targeted affluent professional single parents, particularly those in medical or legal fields. She exploited their long work hours and emotional vulnerability. She always used names with the initials MP, and she always focused her cruelty on the children. Rebecca A. Has anyone else discovered videos? Our family lawyer found footage of our son being berated and humiliated on a private website. Subscribers were paying to watch. Ethan's blood ran cold. Sanchez had mentioned the possibility, but seeing confirmation from another parent made it horrifyingly real. Ethan R., detective, mentioned this. Haven't seen evidence yet. How did you find it? Rebecca A., digital forensics expert hired by our lawyer. She was smart about hiding it, but not smart enough. The expert traced payments through cryptocurrency exchanges. There's a whole network of these monsters sharing content. Michael D., same here. Videos of my boys being forced to sleep in a closet, being denied food unless they performed for the camera. I can't even describe. Just know you're not alone if they find similar evidence in your case. Ethan closed his eyes, fighting nausea. The thought of Noah's suffering being broadcast for entertainment was almost more than he could bear. But these parents were living with that knowledge, finding ways to move forward despite it. Their strength fortified his resolve. Jessica W., we should coordinate our legal responses. Class action against the platforms that hosted this content. Joint victim impact statements when she's finally arrested. Taylor S. and public awareness campaign. How many more families is she targeting right now while we sit here? We need to warn people. The conversation continued late into the night, evolving from shared trauma to collective action. By the time Ethan finally closed his laptop, they had formed committees, assigned tasks, and begun drafting a public statement with the help of a PR expert who was Michael's brother-in-law. Exhausted but oddly energized, Ethan checked on Noah one last time before heading to bed. His son slept peacefully, one small hand thrown above his head in the uninhibited posture of childhood. The sight brought tears to Ethan's eyes, not just of grief for what Noah had endured, but of fierce determination to ensure his future contained more moments like this. Safe, peaceful, protected. Morning came with unexpected sunshine, rare for Seattle in early spring. Noah woke without nightmares for the first time since his rescue, his eyes clearer and more focused than they had been in the hospital. Pancakes, Ethan offered, already reaching for the mix he'd purchased in preparation. Noah's enthusiastic nod was answer enough. As they worked together at the kitchen counter, Noah carefully measuring flour, Ethan manning the stove, the domesticity of the moment struck Ethan with its simple power. This was what had been stolen from them, not just possessions or security, but everyday moments of connection. The pancakes were misshapen but delicious. Noah ate 3, his appetite improving by the day, while Ethan fielded calls and messages from the growing network of Melissa's victims. A television producer wanted to feature their story on a national news program. A senator who championed child welfare issues requested a meeting. The puzzle pieces of justice were slowly assembling. "What are we doing today?" Noah asked, maple syrup glistening on his chin. Ethan smiled, wiping the sticky residue with a napkin. "I thought we might visit the aquarium. Would you like that?" Noah's eyes lit up. "The one with the octopus?" "That's the one. Can I bring Triceratops?" Noah held up his dinosaur companion. "Of course. Triceratops loves marine biology." Noah giggled. The sound so precious Ethan wanted to capture it, preserve it, build a fortress around it, to ensure it was never again silenced. As they prepared to leave the condo, Ethan's phone buzzed with a news alert. Wellness influencer under investigation for child exploitation and fraud. Melissa's social media profile picture, showing her lounging in what Ethan recognized as his own living room, accompanied the headline. The public exposure had begun. It wouldn't bring back what Noah had lost, couldn't erase the trauma, or restore his innocent trust in the world. But it was a start, a first step toward the justice that Ethan had silently promised his son in that hospital room days ago. For now, though there would be otters and octopuses, ice cream and hand-holding, the simple joys that childhood should contain, the rest could wait at least for a few hours. 2 weeks passed in the relative sanctuary of the Lawsons' condo. Noah's physical recovery progressed steadily, his hollow cheeks filling out, the shadows beneath his eyes fading, his energy returning in small but significant bursts. Dr. Winters visited twice weekly, her gentle questioning and play therapy techniques gradually helping Noah process his experiences. Ethan watched his son's transformation with a mixture of relief and lingering guilt. Each sign of improvement was a reminder of how close they had come to permanent damage, how Noah's resilience was being tested far beyond what any child should endure. The media coverage of the nanny nightmare, as tabloids had dubbed the case, continued to expand. More families came forward, the total now reaching 15 across 5 states. Melissa Tanner's operation was revealed to be more extensive and organized than initially believed, with evidence of accomplices who had helped create her false identities and dispose of stolen goods. Still, Melissa herself remained at large, a fact that kept Ethan constantly vigilant. He installed a state-of-the-art security system in the condo, complete with cameras and motion sensors. He rarely left Noah with anyone except Catherine Lawson, who had taken emergency leave from her teaching position in Portland to help with her grandson's recovery. "You can't keep living like this," Catherine observed one evening as she and Ethan sat on the balcony, watching Noah build an elaborate Lego creation on the living room floor. "Always looking over your shoulder, jumping at shadows. That's not sustainable, Ethan." "I know," he admitted, taking a sip of the scotch Catherine had poured him. "But until she's caught, you need to start rebuilding a normal life. For Noah's sake, if not your own." Catherine was right, as she usually was. Sarah had inherited her practical wisdom from her mother, a trait Ethan had always admired in both women. "Dr. Winters thinks Noah might be ready to try a half-day at school next week," Ethan said, "just to see how it goes." "That's wonderful progress. But what if he's not ready? What if it sets him back? What if—" Catherine laid a gentle hand on his arm. "What if you trust your son's strength? What if you believe in the foundation you've rebuilt these past weeks? What if you allow yourself to hope, Ethan?" The questions hung in the evening air, challenging and compassionate at once. Catherine had a way of cutting through Ethan's anxieties to the heart of the matter. It was one of the reasons he'd welcomed her presence during this difficult time, despite the complicated history between them. After Sarah's illness, there had been tension, unspoken accusations, the sense that he should have done more, been more for her daughter. But Noah's crisis had brought them together in shared purpose, old grievances set aside in service to the child they both loved. "You're right," Ethan conceded. "We can't hide forever. No one's saying you should throw caution to the wind, just take small steps back toward normalcy." Inside, Noah had abandoned his Legos and was now drawing intently, his small face scrunched in concentration. These quiet, focused activities were his preference now, a stark contrast to the energetic, boisterous child he had been before Melissa. Dr. Winters assured Ethan this was normal, that Noah was seeking control through order and precision, and that his playfulness would return in time. "I'm thinking about looking at houses next weekend," Ethan said, the decision forming as he spoke it. "Not to buy immediately, just to see what's out there. Noah should be part of that process." Catherine nodded approvingly, a concrete step forward. Sarah would be proud. The mention of Sarah no longer brought the sharp pain it once had. Grief had softened to a dull ache, still present but no longer debilitating. In its place was a different kind of connection to her memory, a sense that the best way to honor Sarah was to be the father she had always believed Ethan could be. The next morning brought an unexpected development. Detective Sanchez called as Ethan was preparing Noah's breakfast. "We've had a breakthrough," Sanchez announced without preamble. One of Tanner's known associates was arrested in Portland, attempting to use a credit card stolen from the Davis family. "She's talking, hoping for a deal." Ethan's pulse quickened. "What has she revealed?" "Tanner's operation is larger than we thought. She has at least 6 accomplices who help create her false identities, fence stolen goods, and manage the online aspects of her scams. They call themselves the nurturers, sick joke considering what they do to the children in their care." "Has this associate given up Melissa's location?" "Not yet, but she's provided valuable intelligence on their methods and communication channels. We're closing in, Dr. Reynolds. It's just a matter of time." After hanging up, Ethan shared the news with Catherine, who received it with cautious optimism. They agreed not to mention it to Noah, not wanting to disrupt the sense of security he was slowly rebuilding. That afternoon, while Noah was at his therapy session with Dr. Winters, Ethan received another call, this one from Rebecca Adams, the mother from Virginia, whose discovery of exploitation videos had sent shockwaves through the victim support group. "Ethan, I wanted you to hear this from me before the news breaks," Rebecca began, her voice taut with controlled anger. "The FBI has identified a private server containing videos of all our children. They've shut it down and are tracing subscribers, but it's worse than we thought." Ethan steeled himself. "How much worse?" "The videos were categorized, marketed like entertainment products. Different packages for different subscribers. Basic discipline, sleep deprivation, food control." Her voice cracked slightly. "They had nearly 1,000 paying members, Ethan. 1,000 people paying to watch our children suffer." The scale of the exploitation left Ethan momentarily speechless. When he finally found his voice, it emerged as a whisper. "Was Noah—" "Yes, I'm so sorry." The FBI agent said there were multiple videos of Noah, primarily in the sleep deprivation and emotional manipulation categories. Ethan closed his eyes, fighting nausea. "Have they been completely removed?" "The FBI has taken down the main server, but they can't guarantee copies haven't been saved elsewhere. They're working on it, using some kind of digital fingerprinting technology to identify and remove copies automatically." "Will I need to see them for the case?" Rebecca's response was immediate and firm. "No, absolutely not. I made that mistake, insisted on viewing the footage of my son. Don't do it, Ethan. It doesn't help the case, and it will haunt you forever. The FBI has experts who document and analyze this material, so we don't have to." After the call ended, Ethan sat motionless in the condo's guest room, which had become his makeshift office. The knowledge that Noah's suffering had been commodified, distributed, consumed as entertainment, ignited a rage so pure it frightened him. For the first time, he understood how people could be driven to vigilante justice, could bypass the slow machinery of legal proceedings in favor of direct, brutal retribution. He was still sitting there, hands clenched into fists, when Catherine returned with Noah. The sound of his son's voice excitedly describing the therapy dog that had visited Dr. Winter's office today, pulled Ethan back from the brink. This was what mattered. Noah, here healing, alive with possibility. Not revenge, not the past, but the future they were carefully reconstructing together. That evening, as Noah soaked in the bathtub, a nightly ritual he had reclaimed with enthusiasm once assured, he could have warm water and bubbles, Ethan received a video call. Request from Michael Davis, the father of twin boys who had suffered under Margaret Phillips, had become something of a de facto leader for the victims group, his background in corporate law proving invaluable as they navigated the complex legal landscape. We've got an opportunity, Michael explained after pleasantries were exchanged. Senator Harris is pushing for emergency hearings on child exploitation via internet platforms. She wants parent testimony, faces and stories to humanize the statistics. Several of us are planning to speak. Would you consider joining? The request caught Ethan off guard. Testify? In Washington? It would be challenging, I know, but your perspective as a medical professional who was deceived adds a powerful dimension to our collective story. If even doctors can be manipulated by these predators, it demonstrates the sophistication of their operations. Ethan hesitated. The idea of speaking publicly about their ordeal, of becoming the public face of a cause, was daunting. He had always valued his privacy, had built his professional reputation on discretion and reserve. I need to think about it, he told Michael. Noah's recovery has to be my priority, of course. But consider this. Your testimony could help change laws, could prevent other families from experiencing what we've endured. Sometimes the most powerful advocacy comes from those who never sought the spotlight. After Noah was asleep, Ethan discussed the invitation with Catherine. Her perspective, as always, was pragmatic yet compassionate. It's a significant commitment, she acknowledged, and yet I can't help thinking Sarah would have been the first to volunteer. She never shied away from fighting for what was right, especially when children were involved. The observation resonated. Sarah had indeed been an advocate, serving on hospital ethics committees, volunteering with children's charities, speaking at medical schools about patient-centered care. Her passion for protecting the vulnerable had been one of the qualities Ethan most admired. I don't want to expose Noah to more scrutiny, Ethan said. He's been through enough. Then don't. Testify, but keep Noah completely out of the public eye. No interviews, no photographs, no details that could identify him specifically. Speak about your experience as a parent, as a doctor, but protect Noah's privacy absolutely. The suggestion offered a middle path, a way to contribute to systemic change without further compromising Noah's recovery. Ethan considered it carefully, weighing his responsibilities as a father against his potential impact as an advocate. I'll sleep on it, he decided finally, and talk to Dr. Winters about how such a step might affect Noah, even indirectly. Catherine nodded approvingly. A thoughtful approach. Now you should rest. Tomorrow's a big day. Tomorrow was indeed significant. Noah's first attempt at returning to school since his rescue. Just a half day at the private academy he'd attended before, with special accommodations arranged by Dr. Winters and the school counselor. A small step toward normalcy, toward reclaiming the childhood that Melissa Tanner had so nearly destroyed. As Ethan prepared for bed, his phone chimed with an email notification. The sender was unfamiliar, but the subject line made his blood run cold. I know what she did to Noah. His finger hovered over the delete button, spam surely, or a cruel prank. But something made him open it. The message contained a single line of text. She's not working alone. Check the hospital staff. Your son is still in danger. Below was an image. The Seattle Children's Hospital parking garage, time-stamped yesterday afternoon during Noah's appointment with a specialist. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable to Ethan's eyes, was a woman in scrubs with familiar posture, her face turned away from the camera. Melissa Tanner was still watching them. Ethan's hands trembled as he forwarded the email to Detective Sanchez, adding a brief message. Urgent. Possible Tanner sighting at Seattle Children's. Anonymous tip suggests hospital infiltration. Sleep was now impossible. He checked the condo's security system twice, verified that all entrances were locked, and positioned himself in the hallway between Noah's room and the front door. Only after Sanchez called back, promising to dispatch officers to monitor the building and coordinate with hospital security first thing in the morning, did Ethan allow himself to breathe. "We take this very seriously," Sanchez assured him. "But I want to caution you. This could be a hoax designed to provoke fear. Tanner knows that psychological terror is a powerful weapon. The woman in the photo could be Tanner or could be someone who resembles her. We'll enhance the image and compare it to known photos. Meanwhile, I'm sending a patrol car to your location. They'll remain outside the building until we've assessed the threat." The presence of police officers outside provided little comfort. If Melissa had indeed infiltrated the hospital, she had demonstrated a level of boldness and determination that suggested locked doors and security systems might not be sufficient deterrents. By morning, Ethan had made a decision. Noah would not be returning to school today. Catherine, informed of the situation, agreed without hesitation. "We'll have a home learning day," she suggested, her calm pragmatism a steadying influence. "I've got some educational games on my tablet, and there's that solar system model kit we haven't assembled yet." Noah accepted the change of plans with equanimity, perhaps even relief. For all his progress, the prospect of returning to school had clearly triggered anxiety. The postponement was a disappointment to Dr. Winters, who had carefully prepared both Noah and the school for the reintegration, but she understood the security concerns. "Safety has to be the priority," she acknowledged during a hastily arranged video call. "But let's not let this setback derail Noah's progress entirely. Structure and routine are important, even if they have to happen at home for now." Following her guidance, Ethan and Catherine created a modified school day schedule for Noah: reading time, science exploration, art therapy, physical activity within the safety of the building's secure playroom. Noah responded well to the structure, particularly enjoying the one-on-one attention from both his father and grandmother. While Noah was engaged in building his solar system model with Catherine, Ethan received an update from Sanchez. "We've confirmed it's Tanner in that photo," the detective reported grimly. "Hospital security found evidence that someone using a stolen ID badge accessed areas near the pediatric clinic during Noah's appointment yesterday. We're reviewing all camera footage now." Ethan felt his chest constrict. "How did she even know we would be there?" "That's what concerns us. Someone may have leaked your son's appointment schedule. We're investigating all hospital staff who had access to that information." "What about Noah's doctor?" "Dr. Mercer has been treating him since he was born. He wouldn't—" "We're not accusing anyone specifically," Sanchez clarified, "but Tanner has demonstrated an ability to manipulate systems and people. She, or an accomplice, could have accessed scheduling information through various channels. The implication was clear. Nowhere was truly safe. Melissa had tentacles extending into places Ethan had considered secure sanctuaries. The hospital, Noah's school presumably, perhaps even the legal and social services systems involved in their case." "What do we do now?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice low to prevent Noah from overhearing. "We're setting up surveillance at all locations connected to your family. And I'd like to place an undercover officer in your building, someone who can respond immediately if necessary." "Do it," Ethan agreed without hesitation. "Whatever it takes to protect Noah." After ending the call, Ethan found himself staring at the family photo displayed on his phone's lock screen. It had been taken at Mount Rainier, just weeks before Sarah's diagnosis. All three of them smiling, snowflakes catching in Sarah's dark curls. Noah's face alight with joy. A perfect moment preserved in pixels, a reminder of what had been lost and what still remained worth fighting for. The next 3 days passed in tense vigilance. The undercover officer, introduced to Noah as Mr. Dave, the new building security manager, maintained a constant presence in the lobby. Hospital security reviewed all of Noah's medical records and future appointments, implementing new protocols to prevent unauthorized access. Ethan postponed house hunting indefinitely, unwilling to risk venturing into unfamiliar locations. On the 4th day, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Jessica Wilson, whose family in Portland had been victimized 2 years earlier, messaged the support group with news. "Just got word from our PI. One of Tanner's known associates was spotted at a vacation rental in Snoqualmie. Property rented under the name Marissa Patterson. Another MP could be her new alias." Within hours, Sanchez confirmed that police were monitoring the Snoqualmie property. By evening, he had more concrete information. 3 individuals connected to Tanner's operation had been identified coming and going from the rental. Surveillance was in place, warrants were being prepared, and an operation was being planned. We believe Tanner herself may be using this location as a base of operations, Sanchez explained during a secure call with Ethan and representatives from the FBI's Crimes Against Children unit. The challenge now is timing the arrest to ensure we capture as many members of the network as possible. Agent Diana Miller, the FBI lead, elaborated, based on digital intelligence, we believe they're planning something significant in the next 48 hours. Multiple encrypted communications reference a retrieval operation scheduled for Friday. Ethan's blood ran cold. Retrieval? As in, we believe they may be planning to abduct your son, Dr. Reynolds, Miller confirmed, or at minimum, to make another attempt at surveillance or intimidation. The blunt assessment hung in the air, terrifying in its implications. After a moment of stunned silence, Ethan found his voice. What's the plan to stop them? What followed was an outline of a counter-operation so comprehensive, it left Ethan simultaneously reassured and horrified. The FBI, in coordination with local law enforcement, had developed a multi-layered protection strategy, enhanced security at the condo, covert surveillance of all access points, digital monitoring of communications among known associates, and a tactical team on standby. There's one more element to consider, Miller added. We believe Tanner's network may have compromised your current location. It might be strategic to relocate you and Noah temporarily, somewhere unexpected that doesn't appear in any records they could access. The suggestion made tactical sense, but Ethan hesitated. Noah had only recently begun to feel secure in the condo environment. Another sudden change might trigger regression in his recovery. I understand your concerns for Noah's emotional well-being, Miller acknowledged when Ethan voiced this worry. But weigh that against the potential trauma of another encounter with these individuals. Our behavioral analysts believe that for Tanner, this has become personal. She's demonstrating fixation behaviors consistent with someone who feels she was robbed of something she believes is rightfully hers. My son is not her property, Ethan said, his voice low with controlled fury. Of course not. But in her distorted perception, he and your home possession's identity became extensions of herself. Your escape and the subsequent public exposure represent a narcissistic injury she's desperate to avenge. The clinical analysis was chilling in its precision. Ethan had encountered similar psychological patterns during his medical training, patients whose detachment from reality made them unpredictable and dangerous. Where would we go? He asked finally. We have a safe house prepared in an undisclosed location. Only those with direct operational need would know your whereabouts. You would have 24/7 protection until the network is dismantled. After consulting with Catherine and Dr. Winters, via secure channels with no specific locations mentioned, Ethan made the difficult decision to relocate. Dr. Winters offered guidance on how to present the move to Noah as an adventure rather than another disruption, emphasizing choice, control, and the temporary nature of the change. That evening, as Noah helped pack a small suitcase of essential items, Ethan marveled at his son's resilience. Despite everything, Noah approached the secret vacation with cautious curiosity rather than fear. Will there be trees? Noah asked, carefully selecting which books to bring. And animals? I think so, buddy, Ethan replied. Though he himself had no idea where they were being taken, the agent said it's somewhere peaceful. Can I bring my dinosaur? Absolutely. Triceratops is essential personnel. Noah giggled at this, a sound that still felt like a miracle each time Ethan heard it. Despite the circumstances, despite the danger lurking just beyond their protective bubble, Noah was healing. Finding his way back to childhood, one small moment at a time. At precisely 3 a.m. as planned, 2 plainclothes agents arrived at the condo's service entrance. Noah, drowsy but cooperative, allowed himself to be carried to a waiting vehicle with darkened windows. Catherine would remain behind as a decoy, with protection of her own. The separation was necessary but painful. She had become a vital part of their support system. We'll see you soon, Ethan promised as she embraced them both. "Stay safe." "You too," she whispered, pressing a small package into Noah's hand. A surprise for later. The drive was long and circuitous, deliberately designed to detect and evade potential surveillance. Noah dozed against Ethan's shoulder, Triceratops clutched to his chest. Ethan remained vigilant, watching through the windows as Seattle's familiar landscape gave way to countryside, then dense forest. Nearly 3 hours later, they arrived at what appeared to be a modest hunting cabin, nestled among towering pines. The location was remote, accessible only by a single dirt road that wound through thick forest. Despite its rustic exterior, Ethan soon discovered the cabin was equipped with state-of-the-art security systems and communication technology, disguised to maintain the traditional aesthetic. "Home sweet home?" "For now," Agent Miller said, giving them a brief tour. "We have agents positioned throughout the perimeter. You won't see them, but they're there. Nothing approaches without our knowledge." As dawn broke over the trees, casting dappled light through the cabin windows, Noah explored his new surroundings with growing enthusiasm. The surprise from Catherine, a set of wildlife identification cards, proved perfectly suited to their forest hideaway. By mid-morning, Noah had already spotted 3 different bird species from the cabin's screened porch. "Look, Daddy," he exclaimed, pointing to a flash of blue among the branches. "A Steller's jay, just like on the card." Ethan joined him on the porch, binoculars in hand. For a moment, watching Noah's face light up with discovery, he could almost forget why they were here. Could imagine this was simply a father-son vacation, a chance to reconnect with nature and each other. Then his secure phone buzzed with a message from Sanchez. "Operation underway. Stay alert." The hunt for Melissa Tanner had entered its final phase. 3 days into their stay at the safe house, Ethan and Noah had settled into a peaceful routine. Mornings were spent exploring the immediate surroundings, under the watchful eyes of their protection detail. Afternoons were for reading, games, and the distance learning materials Dr. Winters had arranged. Evenings brought storytelling by the fireplace, with Noah gradually opening up about his experiences in ways he hadn't before. "Missy said I couldn't tell you things," Noah confided one night as Ethan tucked him into the cabin's small second bedroom. "She said you would send me away if you knew I was bad." Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, his heart aching. "You know that's not true, right?" "Nothing could ever make me send you away, Noah. And you weren't bad, not ever." Noah considered this, his small face solemn in the glow of his dinosaur nightlight. "She took pictures of me crying. And videos. She said they were for you, to show you when you came home." The revelation, delivered in Noah's matter-of-fact tone, sent a chill through Ethan. Dr. Winters had warned that Noah might disclose new information as he felt safer, but each revelation was like a fresh wound. "I'm so sorry that happened to you," Ethan said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Missy was wrong to do that. Those pictures and videos weren't for me. She was lying." "I know," Noah nodded. "Dr. Amy told me. She said Missy's brain tells her wrong things, and that's why she does bad things to kids." Dr. Winter's explanation was developmentally appropriate, a way for Noah to understand what had happened without internalizing blame. Still, the simplicity with which Noah now discussed his trauma was both heartening and devastating. "Dr. Amy is very smart," Ethan agreed. "And you know what? You're even smarter, because you survived something really hard, and now you're helping other kids by telling the truth." Noah's eyes widened. "I'm helping other kids?" "Absolutely. Because you were brave enough to tell us what happened. The police can make sure Missy never hurts another child again." This concept, that his suffering might have purpose, might protect others, seemed to resonate with Noah. He hugged Triceratops closer. "Good. I don't want any more kids to sleep on wet mattresses." That night, after Noah was asleep, Ethan received the call they'd been waiting for. Agent Miller's voice was tense but triumphant. "We've got her." "Dr. Reynolds, Melissa Tanner is in custody." The operation, Miller explained, had culminated in a coordinated series of raids across 3 states. 7 members of Tanner's network had been arrested, including the 2 accomplices who had been planning what was indeed an attempt to abduct Noah. They had detailed schematics of the condo building, surveillance photos of Noah's potential routes to school, even a duplicate of your key fob, Miller revealed. The plan was to intercept him during what would have been his first week back at school. Ethan felt physically ill at how close they had come to another tragedy. And Tanner herself, caught at the Snoqualmie property. She had multiple disguises, forged identification documents, and a significant amount of cash. She was planning to flee the country. Was she resistant? Ethan wasn't entirely sure what answer he was hoping for. Initially, yes. She attempted to maintain her wellness consultant persona, claiming persecution and misunderstanding. But when presented with the evidence, particularly the videos, her facade cracked. She's talking now, attempting to negotiate by providing information on other members of the network. Will it work? Will she get a reduced sentence? Miller's response was firm. Not if we have anything to say about it. The evidence against her is overwhelming, Dr. Reynolds. Multiple counts of child abuse, fraud, identity theft, exploitation of minors, conspiracy. The list goes on. We're talking decades, potentially life in prison. The news should have brought relief, closure. Instead, Ethan felt strangely hollow. Melissa's capture didn't undo the damage she had caused, couldn't erase the trauma Noah had endured or the weeks of fear they had lived through. "When can we come home?" he asked, his mind already shifting to the next phase, rebuilding their lives yet again. "We'd like to keep you in protective custody for another 48 hours, while we ensure all members of the network have been identified and apprehended. After that, you'll be free to return to Seattle, or wherever you choose to go next, wherever they chose." The open-endedness of that future was suddenly both daunting and exhilarating. With Melissa behind bars, they could truly begin again, could create a new home, new routines, new memories untainted by fear. The next morning, Ethan shared the news with Noah in simple terms. Missy had been caught by the police and would never be able to hurt him or any other child again. Noah processed this information with his characteristic thoughtfulness. "Is she in jail?" he asked finally. "Yes, and she'll stay there for a very long time." Noah nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Can we go home now?" "In a couple of days. But, buddy, I've been thinking, maybe we should find a new home. A fresh start somewhere that's just ours." To Ethan's surprise, Noah looked relieved rather than upset. "Can it be near the ocean? With a big tree in the yard?" We can certainly look for that. Any other requests?" Noah considered seriously, then, "A room for Grandma to visit. And maybe a dog." Ethan smiled, his heart lightening. "Those are excellent suggestions from my chief real estate consultant." 2 days later, as promised, they were cleared to leave the safe house. The drive back to Seattle was markedly different from their tense journey out, this time taking a direct route in daylight, with Noah pointing out interesting sights along the way. When they arrived at the Lawsons' condo, Catherine was waiting with a homecoming celebration, balloons, Noah's favorite foods, and the news that she had decided to relocate to Seattle permanently. "Portland has plenty of elementary schools that need teachers," she explained when Ethan expressed surprise. "And I think we all benefit from being close to each other now." The next few weeks unfolded with purposeful momentum. Noah returned to school part-time, supported by a comprehensive plan developed by Dr. Winters in collaboration with his teachers. Ethan began interviewing for positions that would allow more flexible scheduling, still practicing medicine, but with boundaries that ensured he would be present for Noah's daily life. House hunting became a family activity, with Noah contributing enthusiastically to the evaluation of each property. They finally found it in Bainbridge Island, a cozy craftsman with a view of Puget Sound, a massive Douglas fir in the backyard, and, to Noah's delight, a fenced yard perfect for the rescue dog they were now considering. As they stood on the ferry back to Seattle after viewing the house, Noah leaned against the railing watching the water churn below. "Daddy?" he asked, his voice nearly lost in the wind. "Do you think Mommy would like the blue house?" The question caught Ethan off guard. Noah rarely initiated conversations about Sarah, though he responded openly when Ethan or Catherine mentioned her. "I think she would love it," Ethan said carefully. "Especially the garden. Your mom always wanted a big garden by the water." Noah nodded, seemingly satisfied. "We could plant flowers for her there, and put her picture in the living room, not hiding in your drawer." The observation that Ethan had kept Sarah's photos tucked away, too painful to display, was startlingly perceptive. In the chaos following her passing, and then the trauma with Melissa, Sarah's visual presence had indeed been minimized, as if seeing her would somehow magnify their loss. "You're right," Ethan acknowledged. "We should definitely have her pictures in our new home. She's still part of our family even if she's not here with us." Noah smiled, a genuine expression that reached his eyes. "She's watching us from heaven. Like my drawing in the secret book." The secret book, Noah's notebook found behind the dryer. Ethan had almost forgotten it in the tumult of recent events. "You're right, buddy. She is." That evening, as Noah played with Catherine, Ethan received a call from Michael Davis. The congressional hearings on child exploitation were scheduled for the following month, and the planning committee had specific questions about Ethan's willingness to testify. "We understand if it's too much," Michael assured him. "Every family has to decide what level of public involvement feels right for their healing process." Ethan watched Noah through the doorway, noting how his son now laughed without restraint, moved without constantly checking for permission, existed with a gradually returning confidence that was beautiful to witness. "I'll testify," Ethan decided, "not just about what happened to Noah, but about the systemic vulnerabilities that allowed it to happen. Background check processes that can be circumvented, references that aren't verified, medical systems that don't adequately track prescription medications. These are fixable problems." "That's exactly the perspective we need," Michael sounded relieved. "Your medical background gives you credibility beyond just being a parent victim. Lawmakers will listen." And so, as summer bloomed across Seattle, their new life took shape with deliberate intention. They closed on the Bainbridge Island house, choosing paint colors and furniture as a family. Noah started full-time at his new school, where his teachers reported steady academic progress and increasing social engagement. Stella, a gentle shepherd mix from the local shelter, joined their household, becoming Noah's devoted companion and self-appointed guardian. Ethan accepted a position at a smaller hospital that prioritized work-life balance, allowing him to be home for dinner every night and rarely requiring overnight shifts. Catherine found a teaching position at Noah's school, close enough to be supportive, but with professional boundaries that respected Ethan's role as Noah's primary parent. The congressional testimony, when it came, was both harrowing and cathartic. Sitting before the Senate committee, Ethan spoke not just as Noah's father, but as a medical professional and advocate. He detailed the sophisticated manipulation techniques Melissa had employed, the systemic gaps she had exploited, and the far-reaching impact of her crimes. Most importantly, he offered concrete recommendations for prevention: stricter vetting protocols for caregivers, better coordination between child welfare agencies across state lines, enhanced monitoring of online platforms where exploitation content was shared. No parent should have to wonder if the person they've trusted with their child's care is actually a predator, Ethan concluded, and no child should have to endure what these children have suffered while the adults in their lives remained unaware. The testimony made national headlines, bringing renewed attention to the case and the broader issues it represented. Messages poured in from families across the country, some sharing similar experiences, others expressing gratitude for the awareness Ethan's advocacy had created. In October, almost exactly a year after Sarah's passing, the first of Melissa Tanner's trials concluded with a decisive verdict: guilty on all counts, with a sentence of 30 years without possibility of parole. Her accomplices received similar judgments in their respective jurisdictions. The digital platform that had hosted the exploitation videos was shut down, its operators facing federal charges. The network Melissa had built was dismantled completely, its members scattered to various prisons across the country. To mark the occasion, not with celebration but with acknowledgement, Ethan, Noah, Catherine, and Stella spent the day planting Sarah's garden at the Blue House. Noah carefully arranged riverstones to spell out Mom among the perennials that would bloom in spring. "Now she'll have flowers every year," he explained, patting the soil with serious attention, "even when we forget to plant new ones." That evening, as they sat on the deck overlooking the Sound, Noah curled against Ethan's side with Stella at his feet, Catherine raised her glass in a quiet toast. "To healing," she said simply, "and to new beginnings." "And to remembering," Noah added unexpectedly, his small face solemn in the fading light. "Because remembering the bad stuff helps us fix things for other kids." Ethan felt his throat tighten with emotion. In that moment, he glimpsed the remarkable person his son was becoming, compassionate, resilient, wise beyond his years, not despite his trauma, but in part because of how he had processed it. "That's exactly right. Noah," he agreed, drawing his son closer. "We remember, we heal, and we help others do the same." As darkness settled over the water, stars emerging one by one above them, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the desperate midnight call in Boston to this peaceful evening on their own deck, they had traversed a landscape of fear, betrayal, and recovery. The path had not been straight or easy. There had been setbacks, moments of despair, days when moving forward seemed impossible. Yet here they were. Noah sleeping peacefully in his room decorated with dinosaurs and star charts. Catherine finding new purpose in education and family. And Ethan himself learning to balance professional dedication with the more profound responsibilities of fatherhood. The scars remained, visible in Noah's occasional nightmares, his hesitation with new adults, his need for reassurance about basic security. But alongside these lingering effects of trauma were growing signs of triumph, his laughter, his curiosity, his capacity for joy and trust despite everything. As for Ethan, he had found a kind of redemption in advocacy, turning personal tragedy into meaningful change. The foundation he had established in Sarah's name now provided resources for families affected by caregiver abuse, funded research into more effective vetting systems, and offered educational programs for medical professionals about recognizing signs of child maltreatment. Sarah would have been proud, Ethan thought as he checked on Noah one last time before bed. She would have recognized in their response to tragedy the values she had always championed: compassion, resilience, the courage to transform suffering into action. Noah stirred slightly as Ethan adjusted his blanket. "Love you, Daddy," he murmured, half asleep. "Love you too, buddy," Ethan whispered, "more than all the stars in the sky." It was a phrase Sarah had often used, now reclaimed as part of their new tradition. Like so much in their reconstructed life, it honored what had been lost while embracing what remained, the unbreakable bond between father and son, tested by fire but ultimately unbroken. Outside, the waters of Puget Sound reflected the moonlight, a silver path stretching toward the horizon. Inside, a family slept in peace, their home no longer a fortress against fear, but a sanctuary for healing, growth, and the quiet miracle of ordinary days. The journey wasn't over. Healing rarely followed a neat, conclusive timeline, but they were on the right path, moving forward together, one day at a time, and for now that was enough.